Hey there, Kingdom Hearts fans. Welcome back to Dream Drop Long Distance, podcast about two best buddies rekindling our friendship through playing the Kingdom Hearts video game series. As always, my name is Mitchell Orsino, and I am joined by my amazing co-host, Mr. Kyle Bradshaw. Kyle, how are you?
My friend, I am so happy right now in interesting ways. Like, there's a lot of other things in my life that aren't going too great right now, but I am so happy to be sitting here talking about what is easily a top 5 game all time for me.
Yes, and yes. To everybody who has been following along at home since the beginning of this podcast, this is episode 1 of our arc of playing through Kingdom Hearts 2. And oh boy, we have been looking forward to this for so long.
I know. I was thinking about that. Overall, we're on episode 20, I believe, if I've been keeping count correctly. And that means we've been airing this for almost half a year now. And because of the way that our recording schedule has gone, we've been doing this for well over half a year, almost a full year now. And that just blows my mind sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really exciting. We actually have to go back and look and see what the podcast anniversary is, because I don't remember right away what the first day we recorded was.
Yeah, I'm not sure because, you know, we don't always give this away, but we have not been recording weekly. We attempt to, but sometimes we double up. Sometimes, you know, our schedule gets a little weird. So yeah, we prepared pretty far in advance for this. And so this day, this game, Kingdom Hearts 2, has been a long time coming for us in real time.
Yes. Oh, yeah. We've been talking about this since before we started Kingdom Hearts 1, which is it's kind of hilarious when you think about it. But you told me you had something about Kingdom Hearts 2 that you wanted to start us off with.
Yeah. So to just kind of take us in, I prepared a little something that I thought might be fun to remember the way that we felt about the game. And just the headspace that we were all in, which we kind of covered in our last bonus episode, our first bonus episode. Mm-hmm. But let's take another dive in anyway. We find ourselves now in March 2006. Young Mitchell and Kyle have grown from kids into a teen and tween with all of the angst that you would expect. Months earlier, having saved up money from chores and Christmas, I went to the local EB Games. It hadn't yet become GameStop at that point, I don't believe. And for the first time, I pre-ordered a video game. But today is the day. After years of anticipating and pondering what could possibly happen next in the story of Sora, Donald, and Goofy, after countless hours scouring the internet for possible release dates, after innumerable replays of the trailer and its catchy Utada song, Kingdom Hearts 2 was mine. The school day couldn't end quickly enough. I remember hurrying home and finding that my dad had even bought me an official Brady Games strategy guide while picking up the game. Game in PlayStation, Mountain Dew in hand, and butt in awkward plastic gaming chair, I was ready to throw down. And throw down I did. It was no all-nighter, but the hours absolutely got away from me. This truly was the game I had been waiting for.
That was really good. Damn. I didn't realize you had bought it from EB before they were GameStop.
Yeah, because our town actually had a GameStop and an EB Games. I don't know if you ever saw that in Hammond, but and then EB Games got bought out by GameStop. And so we had two GameStops that were basically across the street from each other. There was one next to a Walmart and there was one across the street next to a Quiznos.
That's really funny. Yeah, man, that's a pretty awesome story about how that happened. Unfortunately, I don't think mine was that exciting. I'm pretty sure I just helped out around the house enough and probably cut the grass quite a few numbers of times. And that equated to me being able to afford to be able to actually buy the game. And unfortunately, there wasn't a huge grand, other than being very excited to go and pick it up. I believe I bought it at a Walmart right outside of where I grew up. Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, I wish honestly, my story was a little more extravagant.
I mean, I am looking at it through rose-tinted lenses. I mean, it's not like it was the happiest time of my life or anything like that, but it was definitely a moment in my history. Like, I recall making a Neopets account with a new username just to like celebrate the launch of Kingdom Hearts. It's a weird timeline for me as a young lad.
Oh man, yeah, but there was something really special about getting hands on it, because did you? So I think I maybe actually, no, I'm so sorry. I did get it from GameStop, because now when I remember, I pre-ordered it and I finished paying for it when I got there. And when I got there, this was like, I think on like a Monday or Tuesday, because like, oh, it won't be that. Like, I can just walk in. My mom pulled in to let me pick up the game, and there were 8 other people there picking up their copies. And I was like, oh, this is going to be special. Like, no normal game just has a line of people waiting to pick up their pre-orders at like noon on a weekday.
Okay, so you see, you raise an interesting point here. This feels like a Berenstein Bears moment, right? For me.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this as I wrote the intro, because in my memory, this game came out on a Tuesday. I am so sure that this game came out in the middle of the week and that I stayed up way too late and had to go to school the next day. But looking back at the calendar, I went to the day that it released, and it's a Friday. So I have no idea. I am so confused, because I remember back then games used to come out on Tuesdays. Tuesday was new game day. And yet I go to the calendar and it was Friday. And games always come out on Fridays now. And I'm so confused. Like, did we switch timelines, Mitchell?
I don't know. I really don't. That's interesting you mentioned that, because you're right. I mean, nowadays they're always, it's like they only drop them on like prime time days. Whereas, yeah, back in the day it was like Tuesday and Wednesdays. Like I remember you'd get off of school and either your parents would have to drive you, or if you were lucky enough to be legal to drive, it was like 3 p.m. that bell rings and you were bolting to GameStop to go pick up your copy before you had to wait for the next amount of pre-orders to come in.
I don't know. It just feels so weird. Like, because I remember Tuesday being the day, except for when the 3DS came out. I remember that came out on a Sunday, and it was a very strange feeling.
Huh.
But yeah, Tuesday was always the day, and now it's all Friday. But like, apparently, according to Wikipedia, the game came out on a Friday, so I don't really understand. I mean, maybe that could be the problem according to Wikipedia, but I imagine they vetted that source by now.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm very sure. But we got the game in our hands. We were jazzed to play this game that we had been waiting almost 4 years for, the sequel for.
Especially if you didn't play Chain of Memories and you were just waiting that entire time. Yeah, I can't imagine how it would be like to be you. But at the same time, I was over the moon, because I was like, oh my God, all these new characters, all these new plot lines. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next game. So where for you, it's like all that waiting.
It was a wait, man. But I do remember, man, the moment you turn that game on, the excitement, I can still kind of feel like a little like goosebumps kind of running up and down my arms, and how that opening piano music that we got so excited about in Kingdom Hearts 1. It's almost like, and you tell me, it's almost like they cleaned it up and they kind of narrowed it down to very bass keys and like a little softer. And I remember being like, oh, they put a budget into this. Oh, like, this is beautiful work.
Yeah, I do appreciate that about the game, that they always change the instrumentation of Dearly Beloved for each menu. Like, I remember saying to you that I felt that Chain of Memories had a more Final Fantasy sound to it. It had synth notes that kind of reminded me of an older console, which, I mean, it was the Game Boy, so that makes sense. But
yeah,
I love that they put the time and effort into making it a little different, a little fresher each time.
Yep, 100%. I think they just kind of took what they already had. I mean, you just knew immediately by how much it looked like they had put just in the opening screen. You were like, oh, this is about to be special. And then you start the game and you are greeted to what I still think is one of the greatest video game opening animations I have ever seen.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I remember at the time thinking that the style was so good looking too. Like, I was like, oh my God, can the PlayStation 2 really do those graphics? Now, of course, I was, a fool for not thinking that, oh, this is just rendered and they're just playing a video for me right now.
Of course.
But I was just like, oh my God, can you imagine video games looking this good one day? And now, here we are in 2023 and video games look even better than that. But like, yeah, this intro blew my mind and the music to it too. Like, Utada, man, wow.
To all of you listening at home, so the song, if you're curious, you're looking up, is called Sanctuary. Utada had come out with which I guess everybody, I mean, I was assuming Simple and Clean was going to be their song for these games forever. And then they came out with an absolute banger follow-up for the Kingdom Hearts 2 game called Sanctuary. Look it up online. Beautiful song. And it's this amazing music video-y animation of leading you through a lot of the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, but also a very well-animated look at a lot of the things that happened in what I noticed was Chain of Memories, which, as a kid who had never played Chain of Memories, I was immediately just like, wait, why is Sora fighting somebody with a scythe? Why is Riku fighting Ansem? What is happening? Who are these hooded people? It's like they just threw the entire contents of Chain of Memories at my face, and I was so confused, but also the excitement I had watching that. And then all of a sudden you see Kairi as an adult. You see all these characters just popping out of nowhere, and it was so crazy to see all that. And then they are immediately just like, alrighty, you are in a brand new game.
Yeah. There's so many little details that I want to pick out of that, to be honest with you. Like,
yeah,
you were saying about the Chain of Memories characters showing up, and I don't think that would have registered as oh, this is all entirely recap, because we had been conditioned by that point by anime that characters that you haven't been introduced to yet will totally just be in the theme song, and they don't really care. They don't care that who is that? It doesn't matter. You'll find out in a couple episodes. So you could have just as easily thought that, oh, that Scythe guy is going to be one of the villains of this game, isn't he? And then you find out, no, never see him. Never see Ansem.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, spoilers.
Well, but the other thing, there's so many little details that they throw into this too. They emphasize a little bit about how Kairi and Namine are linked, because you'll notice that that one part where the two of them are mouthing the same lyric. There's so much they really try and connect in this such a short clip. I mean, it's the entirety of the song, but it's so short by how much they tried to shove into it. I just can't. It's so good.
There's one scene that always stands out to me in that video was the scene of, so you've got Sora, Donald, and Goofy running up a spiral staircase that seems to be going on for forever, fighting Heartless together. And then all of a sudden the image flips and it's now Riku going up the staircase, but upside down. And so it's kind of showing that these two were on the same type of path, but basically always circling each other and never actually getting to one another. And I just didn't. I mean, now I know what it is, and everybody who's listened to the Chain of Memories arc that we spoke on knows that they did all of that because it's like a metaphor for a way of showing that there were two parts to that story that never really fully converge on one another. Or at least, they don't converge to the point where they're talking to each other. And so I just didn't know what to think. And I was like, what is all of this? Are they just showing me part of the new game and I'm going to have to play it? I don't know. But I do agree, anime kind of conditioned us for that, because there's so many shows where they're like, here is every person they are going to fight in this season. You don't know their names, but just be prepared, because you're either going to love them or hate them. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't know what to expect going into this, honestly, but I was so excited.
So at the end of it, did you remember this scene that plays out where the beach scene that plays out? That is a replay of what happened at the end of the Kingdom Hearts 1 secret ending. Do you remember this? Did that happen in the PlayStation 2 version that we played? Because I don't remember this scene at all, other than the original time that we watched it.
I'd be lying if I said, I mean, it seems familiar. Like I don't know why I was like, oh, I think I remember this, but I could not. It's been so long, I couldn't tell you one way or another. I don't know, like something, it clicked where I was like, I remember there was definitely a scene like this where the first thing you noticed was, oh, like the hooded figures are here. But what they said or how long the scene was, or if it's been edited since then into the new final mix, I could not tell you.
Okay. There's a lot that we can unpack just in this one little scene. Like, are you okay with kind of jumping around a little bit, just on the assumption that everybody has played through this little section? Are you?
Oh, yeah, I have no problems with that. I mean, honestly, I would hope that anybody listening to this, especially for this game, you have at least played through the section that we've said to go through in the notes, because we're not trying to spoil it for you. We want people to enjoy this game as much as we have.
But it would also be a disservice if I didn't bring this up. So
exactly.
The two of them are speaking, right? We have no idea who these people are at this point in time. But I think that just from this section that we've played, we can figure out who one of them is. Because there's one voice that we hear, which is an unfamiliar voice. So we don't know who this person is. I haven't heard this voice before in the games that we've played so far. But the other person that he's talking to, for one, the voice that we can hear says, "I've been to see him. He looks a lot like you." And they have this whole conversation, and he says, "Do you remember your true name?" And this voiceless text appears on screen, and it just says, "My true name is..." And then it cuts over to Kairi saying, "Sora?" I think that this is Roxas and somebody else.
I think that's a good guess. I think it's a very good guess. Maybe, and we'll get further into it, because I don't want to spoil too much, but I think if we're just going to throw that out there as a guess, I think that is probably the strongest one we'll have. Because I agree. I think Roxas is a pretty, like, he's that character that we're going to see going forward. He doesn't quite know who he is, and other people don't quite know who he is. Yeah, I was trying to kind of piece together who that other voice was, and I don't know, because it doesn't sound like Ansem and any of the other things we've done. And it doesn't sound like any of the previous organization members that we've encountered. So I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have enough pieces to figure out that voice, but I'm pretty confident that that's Roxas in the other hood. So I feel like that's I don't know what they're trying to show us with that though, but it's interesting that they've given us pieces to try and put together.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So we don't hear what this character says his name is, but then we are immediately brought into like these flashbacks, these segments of the Kingdom Hearts 1 Destiny Island scenes, like the kids, Sora, Roxas, or not Sora, not Roxas, Sora, Riku, and Kairi playing on the beach and looking out at the sunset, and their sword fight, and talking about how they're always going to be together. And it's just this whole, basically it's just a big recap of everything from the Destiny Islands. And then all of a sudden the scene blacks out and we wake up as Roxas, who is a brand new character to us. Well, I say brand new, but this is the first time we're seeing his actual face.
Yeah, this was such an interesting moment for me as a player. The first time that I ever touched this game, like you're expecting like, oh man, I'm so excited to see what Sora's going to do next. And you don't see what Sora does next for hours. You spend the initial part of the game as a completely new character who isn't even given a name right away. You're just in. You're immersed. You're thrown in the deep end. It's kind of like Half-Life 2 in that way.
Yeah. So you wake up and it's a young boy, kind of spiky-ish blonde hair, obviously a teenager. And he wakes up and you hear him kind of muttering. He's like, these dreams again. And he's like, man, another dream about him. And I remember one thing that stood out is that he was able to pick up, I guess this time, that the name of the person he was dreaming about was named Sora, who he's never met.
So here's a fun one. Would you say, perhaps, Mitchell, that this is a far-off memory that's like a scattered dream?
Stop it.
I think that's quite literal here. I think that's literally what's happening. It's almost like there's a chain of memories being... Okay, I'm going to stop now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, moving on. But you wind up waking up and you're greeted to, I mean, where are we? What is the setting here, Kyle? Where are we at?
So just to start things off, the first thing you get to see is his bedroom, which has this interesting mixture of eclectic furniture and like things made of neon and clockwork. And it's just like an odd contrast that they're trying to show with this place and its construction. But then he steps out of his bedroom or whatever. He steps out of his house and the music kicks in. And for those who have played Chain of Memories, it becomes pretty obvious that we are in Twilight Town.
Yeah, Twilight Town, I don't want to say, I guess, because steampunk isn't the right word. It's like a very village, colonial kind of looking, but also like a weird modern mix to it. Very earth-toned, but everything seems to kind of have this glow to it, like the glow at twilight as the sun is kind of just hitting the horizon. And I still think this is an absolutely beautiful map.
Yeah, it truly is. I cannot tell you how lucky I was to have just like randomly turned the game on and started playing it and experienced this world as a beautiful rose gold shade of twilight was happening outside my window. I was like, oh my God, how did I do this? I did not plan this. It was a beautiful moment to experience, and I wish I could recommend somebody else to do the same.
Yeah, I agree. But, yeah, so, and then another thing that stood out to me is that right after you find out Twilight Town, it gives this, like a text line that appears that says, the first day.
Yeah.
Which I was like, wait, why are we counting down days?
Yeah, it's almost like a chapter title that's being displayed to you, which is very unusual for the Kingdom Hearts series. It's not something that they've done up to this point.
No, they've never really bookmarked anything in the setting or the time of when things are happening. It always just goes and goes and goes. So that was really interesting to me. And, the very first scene you're in is Roxas is hanging out with these three other teenagers, 2 boys, 1 girl, and they are in what looks to be kind of like a meeting place, like a little clubhouse that they've built. As they get to talking, they are all worried because someone is claiming that they are thieves, and the only way that they can clear basically they have to clear their names, because as of right now, nobody believes that they didn't do it.
Yeah, in fact, one of his friends says, everybody's treating us like we're the Klepto Club. And when this game came out, I had no idea what that meant. And I was confused about it for a very long time because I didn't Google it. And I was just like, what does that mean? What's the Klepto Club?
I did the same thing. I didn't catch that as a kid, but I thought it was very funny today. And I was like, wow, that completely went over my head. I never remembered that joke, but that's pretty good. And I guess we should probably talk about, so the friends that he is with, because, there are some bits that we will need to describe them. So you have Hayner, who is apparently Roxas's best friend, another just normal looking blonde haired boy. Pence, who's a kind of slightly shorter, a little more round, brown haired. And then Olette, who is a kind of, I guess, what's the best way to describe her? I mean, she's very Final Fantasy teenage girl.
Yeah, there's nothing to. No, she's like the selfie to the team's Sora and Sora and Riku.
Yeah,
it's a weird.
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
Like, she's cool. She becomes cool.
Yeah, she's fine. Just nothing like too remarkable about her character design. To me, the big part of that scene is as they're talking about like how do we get ourselves out of this, and one of them, I think it may have been Hayner, goes, well, all of our, and then it's a blank in his. He doesn't say it. He's like, all of our are gone.
They still mouth it, though, which is really interesting. They took the time to animate the lips to make sure that it looked like they were saying the word that's gone. Not that I could have read lips when I was a child and playing this game, but it's cool that they put that little bit of detail into it. It's like, all are gone. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Are gone.
But then they all try, and they all realize they can't say it. And so they're like, not only did this thief steal but they stole the word. I thought it was very funny. They weren't as distressed as I know I would be if I realized that, like, say I bought an autographed baseball, and I'm like, oh wow, this is a very precious, expensive thing to me. And then somebody stole it. But not only did they steal that baseball, but they stole my ability to say autographed baseball. I would be in distress.
Yeah, that's existential terror level of
yes.
I just like, how does that even work? And it makes sense when you start to realize what this world is, but we're not there yet. So in this moment, it's just like, we can't say, why not? Which, it was just funny. I remember back in the day, there were people making jokes about that. They were trying to say curse words and they were being censored. Like, all our ears gone.
Of course, people are going to turn that dirty.
I mean, why wouldn't they? We were all immature then, right? Come on.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they set it up. I mean, it was the MTV era. It was bound to happen.
But yeah, so they realize that the word has been stolen. So then you go on this quest to try and find out who else has had it stolen. And you start to realize that, like, everybody thinks that only this group would have done that. It's mostly just trying to make sure that you know how to play the game. Like, here's how reaction menus work. Here's how you move the camera. Because both of those things were new to this game.
They were.
You couldn't even move the camera that freely in Kingdom Hearts 1. You pretty much had to rely on the lock-on system. That's something that people are not necessarily appreciative of when they go back and replay the remastered versions of Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, they rebased the game on Kingdom Hearts 2. So that you can move the camera and you do have the reaction menus.
Man, that was such a game changer, especially because I believe the first fight that you get in a little bit, that's when you noticed it. When I noticed it specifically, because I hadn't been like really trying, because I was like, oh yeah, they added like a moving camera. But man, when you get into like an actual fight, it was so big to be like, oh, I never. As long as I can keep up with the enemy, I don't have to worry about lock-on screwing up anymore.
Yeah, and you're not relying on lock-on to even move the camera for you, because that was kind of a thing, is that you had to lock on to get the camera to turn the way that you wanted to. Otherwise, you had to like press buttons to be able to move the camera or something like that, and it was really awkward. So this they really changed the game here by making the second stick useful. I feel like Kingdom Hearts 2 was one of the first games I had that let me have that degree of freedom, like let me use the stick to control the camera. Does that sound familiar to you, or am I just making that up?
No. I mean, there were definitely games that I played before that allowed. I mean, I remember playing like in like an ATV four-wheeler driving game that had the ability to control the camera however you wanted to. I don't think it was new. I think maybe it was just like Square, for some reason, took a while to wanting to adapt that kind of technology into their games. Yeah, I don't think I had that same experience, but it was cool to get it here. You go around as Roxas with all three of the other kids, and you start to talk to the local armorer, or the local flower shop owner, or the guy who delivers the mail. And for some reason, all of them, they've had this thing stolen from them. And they all just seem very disappointed in Roxas about it happening. And he's trying to save face, but something has been stolen from all of these people. Right at the end, like as they're talking and trying to figure out what's happening, Roxas just straight passes out.
Yeah, it's somewhere around there. I think it's like just as they're leaving their hangout, Roxas passes out, and it's like Diz pops in at this point, and you just hear him. You don't actually see him yet. So if you haven't even played Chain of Memories, you're like, who is that? In fact, I think even the original Chain of Memories, I don't think he was voice acted in that. So even then, you still wouldn't know who that is that's speaking. We have the privilege of knowing that by having played the Chain of Memories, which didn't come out on the PlayStation 2 until after Kingdom Hearts 2. So, in the moment, one would be very confused who's talking here. But we having a little bit of foresight, we know that this is Diz saying, his heart is returning. Doubtless he'll awaken very soon. It's a terrible impression, but you get the idea.
That was pretty big, because we know Diz's voice from Chain of Memories now. And we know what all has been happening, but why he is here in this specific moment, we don't 100% know. So to hear that very familiar voice, I thought was pretty big.
Yeah, because this is a whole different world, or it's supposed to be a whole different world. It's not supposed to have any connection. I mean, we don't really know where Castle Oblivion is or was. I don't even know if it still exists anymore after what Sora did to it. But I would have assumed that it would be a completely different world, considering it had its own card in Castle Oblivion. So it's weird that Diz, who was at Castle Oblivion, is now at Twilight Town, seemingly.
Yeah. But then, all that happens, and Roxas gets back up, and they wind up continuing this search for whoever has stolen this thing that's been stolen. And you're introduced to currently one of my favorite characters in this Twilight Town saga, that I guess we can call it, because we don't know when it's going to end. You're introduced to a young girl and a very kind of blockhead shaped muscle, like beefcake dude. The girl is very like one word, very particular and kind of dainty, whereas the guy is like the big blockhead goofball who is just the muscle. And then my favorite character, you were introduced to the leader of this gang, whose name is Cypher.
Did you know that this is a Final Fantasy character?
No.
All 4 of these friends are Final Fantasy characters. Cypher, Rai, and Fu, which I had no idea her name was Fu until now, but apparently just because like they're known Final Fantasy characters, they're all from Final Fantasy VIII.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And then Vivi is from Final Fantasy IX, the little magician-y looking one with the hat.
God forbid, like I said, I will not admit being like an enormous Final Fantasy fan. Some of these other characters I'm still learning.
I didn't know any of this either because I didn't play any of those games, even though I really should. Yeah, I was like, man, who are these people? And I looked it up. They're all Final Fantasy characters.
That's okay. That's funny. Well, I will say the very first note that I had was that Cypher was giving off some massive Seto Kaiba vibes.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
I actually looked just to double check that it wasn't the same voice actor, because it did sound very familiar.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess if he made himself sound a little younger, I guess that would work. A little higher pitch.
His attitude and just the way that he dogs on people, it just, it fit perfectly. You wind up getting into a fight between Roxas and Cypher. And this is actually the first time that we're introduced to making a choice. Much like we did at the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1, where you were given either the choice to either choose the mage's wand, the sword, or the shield. And in this regard, Cypher pulls out what looks like a little kind of wiffle, like sponge sword, and it's like, pick it up, fight me. And you look, and there is one that is has like a star shape at the end of it, I believe. Another one that is just a base sword. And a third one that is a sword, but with I guess it's called a grip guard, a hand guard.
Yeah, it was a guard. So it's recreating that choice that you made in Kingdom Hearts 1, or at least one of the choices that you made, that you can choose between the sword, the shield, and the wand. But in this case, you don't have to sacrifice something the way that you did in Kingdom Hearts 1. It's, I forget which is which, but I want to say that one of the choices that you make affects your stats, while the second choice affects the skills that you get to have through the remainder of the game, or at least the order that you get them in. So by the time you hit 99, I think all of the skills are the same. I'd have to double check that, or at least mostly the same. Here it's about stats and skills, which is pretty different from choosing one to favor and one to sacrifice.
Yes, absolutely. So I got to ask, which one did you go with?
Oh, come on. You know. Okay, so my thing right now is that I'm going to choose the one that I wouldn't have chosen before.
Okay.
So I used to choose the sword all the time. I was like, sword, forget the magic, leave it behind. So this time I'm going all magic. So I even though I know it's at a personal cost, because of the fact that we're on critical mode, which is really darn hard, as we will find out soon, normally the best thing to do would actually be to choose defense here, because of the fact that we're on critical, which means we get to unlock important defensive abilities sooner. But nope, I went all magic. I'm just going in for it. I'm punishing myself. I'm going to make this playthrough last as long as I possibly can. So yeah, I went with magic. How about you? Did you go with the sword like I would imagine you would?
You would be incorrect. I went with the shield.
Oh, you smart man. You're going to have a better time with this game than I am.
I don't know why. I had I had decided on this game I was going to play more of a paladin-y type character, like a little bit more middle of the road, not just ground and pound the entire time. Because the last game, it definitely was a bruiser. And so, but again, I don't think this choice specifically locked in most of that. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to play it a different route than we did for Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah. For me, it was just trying to find a different playstyle for myself. Because I know that in the third game, I'm definitely going to favor attack because I favored magic in that game and it was way too easy. So I'm thinking I'm going to favor attack in that one to make it harder on myself. And here I'm just favoring magic because it's fun. And it's still going to be a challenge because I didn't go defense because critical mode is hard.
Yeah. Oh, we actually forgot to mention to everybody. So in this game, there is actually a level above or higher than proud mode in terms of difficulty. Kingdom Hearts 2 introduced critical mode.
Kingdom Hearts Final Mix introduced critical mode. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix.
Oh, I thought it was okay. I didn't realize it was only in Final Mix.
Yeah, that's a big part of it because that they had to give a reason for there to be a different secret ending too, and yeah, it was just a whole big thing. But
gotcha. It
comes with some extra things that you may not, or that you wouldn't have gotten in the original game, which are some extra skills. And I think you start with a healthy amount of AP too.
I went to equip the guard ability and had 50 AP to start.
Yeah, because they want you to be able to have those extra skills. Because they give you some extra skills that are there for a good reason, which is like, this is critical mode and it's hard and you need help. But there's also some stuff like, you want to punish yourself while playing this game. So you choose things like no experience as a skill. So you can lock yourself either at level 1 or at whatever level you wish to play the game at. Like if you want to get to level 30 and stop there, you can do that.
Absolute madmen. I don't understand that mentality, but to each their own, whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too. I just say, oh, thanks for the extra skills. I will put those on right now.
Yes. Oh, I wore them like a badge of honor. I threw on everyone that I could. And it's great because you still have like 30 something AP by the time you're done equipping them all. And it actually helps very soon as we wind up beating Cypher in a duel. At least I hope you beat Cypher in the duel.
Yes, absolutely.
And Ryan Fu jump in front of Cypher and are like, oh, Cypher's not feeling too hot today. Like, this is it normally wouldn't happen.
They drop a little line in there too. She says, tournament decides, which I was like, what does that mean? That's just more immersing you into the world because of course, these people know that the tournament is in a couple days. You don't know that, but they know that, so it's fun for them to have included that.
Yeah, I mean, because we had no idea, like, what tournament is, what the hell she talked about.
Yeah.
But, Roxas turns to his friends, and Pince has pulled out a camera and takes a photo and is like, oh, I want to commemorate the moment.
Takes a what, Mitchell? I think you cut out for a second there. Takes a what?
Oh, so yeah, Roxas turns around and Pince has pulled out a camera and he takes and then to commemorate the moment. And so, but as soon as he goes to look at this gray form appears and just whips the camera out of his hand and takes off with it. And Pince is like, what just happened? And everybody is like, what just happened? As you see this very slender, just creepy form of almost like it's humanoid, but doesn't move like a human, run off and then kind of fly/snake through the sky. And they're like, we got to go after that thing and get my camera. At which point you then chase it through Twilight Town to this kind of a big hole in the side of the wall of the town that then leads you out to a forest.
Yeah, and through the forest you wind your way, and it's so weird watching this white thing just kind of wriggle about through the sky. It's very unnerving. They did a great job making these things terrifying by comparison to the Heartless. You don't know what this thing is. It wriggles its way through the forest, and it leads you to what is now, to those who played Chain of Memories, a familiar-looking mansion.
Yeah, you come up on this mansion, and I mean, to us, we know what it is. Roxas, it seems like all the kids know is that it's this old haunted mansion that nobody's lived in for a long time. And you corner this gray humanoid figure right outside the gate. And Kyle, I don't know about you, but like as a kid, I don't remember this, but like seeing it as an adult, I bet it probably freaked me out a little bit because this figure unzips its face like a hood on a jacket, and then all you see is like a kind of a black ball for a head with maybe like a little smile. And this thing, without moving its mouth, says, "We come for you, my liege."
Yeah, that spooked me. That was terrifying. I do not remember this being scary as a kid. Maybe it was, but it was spooky today. That is for sure. Yeah, the zipper coming undone. Oh, man, that waked me out.
It was crazy. It was just like, what is going on? And
like any good teenager would, the first reaction that Roxas has to this creature is to just start trying to whack it with the baton in his hand, or in my case, the wand in his hand. He's just whacking against it, and nothing happens.
Yeah, you try to fight this thing, and I mean, it can hit you just fine, but this sponge sword that you have, and that's not working. The one for Roxas is just like, this is not doing anything. Then all of a sudden, his sponge sword digivolved, and in his hand where the sponge sword was is now a very familiar weapon. Roxas is now a Keyblade wielder.
Ding, 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 ding. That's all right, everybody. We are now at a total of 4 Keyblade wielders. We have Sora, we have Riku, we have Mickey, and now we have Roxas. We are up to 4. The official Dream Drop long distance Keyblade counter is up to 4.
And he's looking at this thing and he's like, what is, and before he can even finish this sentence, the Keyblade, I guess kind of like in the way that like some dogs will point at what they want you to do, the Keyblade straightens itself out and forces him to look at this gray figure. And he's kind of like, does this sword want me to fight this thing? And you continue the fight with this hooded figure, but now you're able to smack it around.
With the help of the Keyblade, Roxas is able to take the creature down, and all it leaves behind is a pile of photos. That's right, everybody. The missing word was photos.
And so as they, he collects them all, and he's like, oh man, and I guess they all start to realize that they can now say photos again. For some reason, all of the photos that were stolen, the only thing that links them is that Roxas is in every single one of them.
Yeah, I have that same note. The pen says, wouldn't it be weird if the thief wanted to steal the real Roxas or something? Narrator, that is exactly what it wanted to do.
That is 100% what I wanted to do. But my favorite line in that sequence was after he said that, Hayner then pops in and goes, why would anyone want to steal a bonehead like him? And it's just like, ha 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 ha.
He's a Keyblade builder. That's why. Duh, Hayner. Come on, get with the program.
Like, did you not see his sword evolve into something better?
And the best part is, no, they didn't, because they ask, so what was the thief like or whatever? And all Roxas says is not much to say. The pictures were just lying there, which means that he doesn't even remember fighting the thing?
Yes, when that happened, I was like, wait, why does he not remember fighting it? Like, he just fought it.
Yeah, and it's either that or he's trying to keep it a secret from them, but I don't know why he would be keeping it a secret.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so after that line, or after, they laugh and they're kind of like, oh, why would anybody want to steal Roxas? Roxas steps out and, this beam of light hits him in the face and he's kind of looking and we hear a very familiar voice.
What happens is that Roxas and Sora begin to have a conversation. Their hearts connect in a way, and they're kind of mentally talking to one another. He doesn't really know who that is, but I think he's able to piece together that it's a person he keeps dreaming about. Yeah,
he can hear Sora talking with him, which is kind of crazy. And so you're like, oh, these two have not only is he getting all these memories of things that's happened to Sora, but now somehow he's actually like been mentally linking up with this guy.
It kind of goes to the fact that the two of them are connected in some kind of way that I'm sure will unfold in due time.
But then all of a sudden, the scene fizzles out to static, and all you hear is a voice go, restoration at 12%.
That was a good impression. I think it's interesting that it happens over TV static, too. Like, yeah, it's such a relic of that time. Like, if somebody were to, if one of these kids today played this portion of the game, would they have any idea what they were looking at?
I don't know. Or if they did, it would be like, oh, that's part of that. I used that on a TikTok filter one time.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man. So.
I know.
Kids these days, they don't know how good they have it.
These kids don't understand connection issues.
So, yeah, that happens. And what we'll close on for today is that you see Diz sitting behind an extremely neon computer station as a hooded figure approaches him from behind. And he says, organization miscreants have found them, which implies a couple different things. Maybe he's referring to that weird creature that fought Roxas. It's not really clear right now. It also suggests that the hooded figure that's walking up to him is not a member of the organization. And when that voice speaks, it kind of sounds like Ansem. What do you think?
Oh, it definitely sounds very much like Ansem. He actually questions Diz. And I think I picked up his voice a little more because he asks him, he's like, why would the nobodies be stealing photos? At which point then Diz responds with, it's all just data to them. And he kind of in not a panic, but in a very stern way is just like, Naminé must make haste.
Yeah, so what's kind of happening here? Well, for one, Naminé must make haste. If you hadn't played Chain of Memories, you'd be like, who's Naminé? What is she doing? But with context, thankfully, we know that she's putting Sora's memories back together after having wiped them, which maybe that's those scenes that we saw play out, like of the Destiny Islands. Like that's Sora's memories being replayed and put back into his head through a weird flower television.
Flower television. That seems to be the most likely conclusion, is that it seems like they're kind of like the organization is catching up to whatever they're doing. And they're worried that if Naminé doesn't pick up the pace, they might not be able to complete whatever it is they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing to take out of here is the fact that these nobodies are not very smart. in that they couldn't tell the difference between a photograph of Roxas and the real Roxas.
Yeah, no.
So they just stole every single bit of Roxas that they could find. Although, like, it's all data to them is still an interesting phrasing here.
I actually really like that phrasing. I thought that was interesting, and the idea that these things might be mechanical. They're not, maybe not fully mechanical, but like mechanical in nature. Like the way that they operate is very much like, here is your prime directive. Go forth and do it at no matter what the cost.
Oh, see, I was thinking about data in the sense of like how the Keyblade, as you said, digivolved on Roxas, like maybe data in that type of way.
Oh, maybe. It could be a mixture. Who knows? But I'm assuming we'll get a clearer answer pretty soon.
Yeah. So with the first day coming to a close, I believe that's where we're going to take a pause for right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got pretty good. We went through, this is, I feel like this section may take, a couple of episodes, because there is a lot that is in this that builds up to what I feel like is a lot of important things going into the game.
Absolutely. It's that chronological nature of it, like with the chapter titles, that really makes it clear that they're trying to squeeze as much as possible in these short little days. But I think it's funny, when we originally discussed this, we talked about maybe handling all of Roxas in one episode. And I'm just trying to imagine discussing and unpacking everything that happened in that. I mean, sure, it was only maybe 2 hours worth of stuff that we did, but it's taken us an hour just to dissect the first 20, 30 minutes.
I think we were, in terms of time, we were a little excited, and we were just like, oh, I want to talk about everything. But there really is. It was way too, I think we got a little too, we underestimated how much we were actually going to want to talk about this.
By and large. So I'm excited to hop back into this for next week's episode, everybody.
Yes. So next week's episode, we start on what I'm assuming is going to be day 2.
The second day.
Well, as always, everybody, my name is Mitchell Orsino. Kyle, thank you so much for sitting down with me again, and I look forward to continuing our little journey together.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. All right, everybody, we will see you all next week. Thank you all for joining.
Hey there, Kingdom Hearts fans. Thanks for listening to the episode. Dream Drop Long Distance is hosted by Mitchell Orsino and Kyle Bradshaw, and is produced by Kyle Bradshaw. Our theme music was written and recorded by Alex McLean.